continue with the 43rd chapter of the book of Yirmiyahu. We're in the midst of the story following the murder of Gedaliah ben Achikam. And Yirmiyahu is warning to the people in chapter 42 when they said to him, "What should we do now?" And they're on their way to Egypt. And they say, "Well, listen to whatever you say." And Yirmiyahu says, "Stay here in the land. That's what God says. I'm done with my anger towards you in this land. But if you go to Egypt," going back to Egypt, we discussed tomorrow, is the bad move, is the wrong move. We don't go back to Egypt. That's moving backwards. It's moving back to idolatry. It's moving back away from God. And so when the people, after they said that they would trust Yirmiyahu, Yirmiyahu says, "I know you're not going to listen to me. And I know you've made up your mind to go to Mitzrayim, and you will be punished." And that's where chapter 43 begins. So when Yirmiyahu finishes speaking the words that the eternal God had told him, and now what happens? Vayomer Azariah ben Hoshaya v'Yochanan ben Kareach v'chol nashim hazedim. And so Azariah and Yochanan and all of the men who were zedim, who were arrogant, Omrim el Yirmiyahu, Sheker ata midaber, Lo shalachcha Adonai le'lemor lo tavo Mitzrayim lagursha. So what do they say to him? You are a liar. The idea of being a liar is used many, many times in this book, but if I'm correct, out of all the times, this is the only time that people say to Yirmiyahu that you're a liar. He says it over and over again that others are liars. But here they say to him, they don't accept his words. God didn't tell us not to go down to Egypt. Why? Because Baruch, the son of Neriah, if you remember, Baruch ben Neriah is Yirmiyahu's scribe. He's the one who's with Yirmiyahu in prison. When Yirmiyahu says, write all these things down, Baruch is the one who writes them down. God, Baruch ben Neriah, in their idea, is the one controlling Yirmiyahu, not being of service to Yirmiyahu, not being his scribe and at times his mouthpiece when he can't go speak to the people. So he's been the more public face since Yirmiyahu has been put into a jail and hiding and protected, quarantined, and so they think that Baruch ben Neriah is aligned with the Kasdim, with the Babylonians. You want to give us to the Babylonians. So Yochanan and all the army and the rest of the people did not obey God's command to remain in Yehuda. And we see here just one evil begets another evil. Avera goreret avera, if you want to put it such. One terrible thing leads to another thing. Right, we had the destruction, and then we have the killing of Gedaliah, and Yochanan wants to save Gedaliah, wants to kill Yishmael, and Gedaliah naively won't let him, and now Yochanan, after more killing by Yishmael and his men, Yochanan has finally gotten the people, but even he is ready to go down to Egypt. They're so scared, they're so terrified, they're so traumatized by what has happened to them, they cannot believe that they can actually live in the land of Israel anymore. They won't be protected. In verse 5, Yochanan ben Kareach so he takes all of the people who had remained, and we're told in verse 6 who they are. They take everybody, men, women, children, the young, the old, the royals, the poor, right? Everybody who Nebuzaradan had allowed Gedaliah to govern over. They also took Yirmiyahu and Baruch. Do they take them willingly? Do they forcibly take them? It seems more like the latter than the former, that they're forcibly taken because they don't trust Yirmiyahu and certainly not Baruch ben Neriah. And what do? They come to Egypt. They do not obey God, and they arrive at Tachpan Ches. We're going the wrong way. The wrong way is the way that we're going. If we think back to the pit and Yishmael and the Ishmaelim and Yosef and the 10 of them, like the 10 brothers, and all those things that we spoke about there, the Jews, according to traditional understanding of the Ramban, the Jews are punished in Egypt because of Avram's mistake when he went down to Egypt during a famine, because Avram said that his wife was his sister, but still the going down to Egypt was to make the Jews into a better nation. That was what was happened. That was the Inui we talked about in the last couple of days. But here they're going down, and it's not going to be that they're going to come out and they're going to see God and there's going to be miracles. We have in that last chapter yesterday, Yadoa Tedu, you will surely know, echoing Yadoa Teda, the language that God says you will know to Avram in the Brit Bein HaBitarim. And so here the Jews are on their way down, but it's not with them. God, then I'm going to remember you and I'm going to bring you out to the land that I promise you, to this land, the land of Israel, your descendants. and you will live here, etc., etc. And so this is a story that doesn't have a reversal, that seems like it's going to have destruction. And that's what we're told in the next couple of things. And Yirmiyahu, God tells Yirmiyahu in Tanchot Beis, Kach biyadcha banim gdolot tmantem bamelet malabein asher b'petach beit paro b'tanchot beis leinei anashim yudim. Go and take large stones and place them into mortars and the bricks at the structure to the entrance of Paro's palace in Tachpanches, with some people of Yehuda listening on. Of course, it's hard to see this and not to think, and I'm sure we're supposed to think, of when the Jews were being told by Moshe that you're going to go into the land of Israel and you have to set up these huge stones, you have to put plaster on them, and you have to write the words of the Torah, and in the book of Yoshua they do it. But what is supposed to be said on these stones? Not the words of the Torah, not that this is your land, not that God has taken us here, but rather, in verse 10, Ko amar Adonai tzvaot, Elohei Yisrael, Hinni sholech v'lakachti et Nebuchadrezzar melech Bavel abdi v'samtich so mima'al avanim ha'ela asher tamanti v'nata et shafri ro alehem. You think you're running to Egypt and you're going to be safe there? There's lo yilmadu milchama, like the words of Yeshaya. I don't think so. My servant, King Nebuchadrezzar of Bavel, he's going to place his throne on top of these stones. He will spread out his pavilion over them. He will rule over this, and destruction will happen. Words that we heard Yirmiyahu speaking chapters ago when he was telling the Jews to submit, because he's going to come, and there are those who will die. There are those who will be imprisoned. There will be those who will be destined to the sword. So destruction is going to happen. And I'll set fire to the temples of the gods of Egypt, and he will burn them down and carry them off, as a shepherd wraps his garment. V'shibar et matzvot beit shemesh asher baretz Mitzrayim ve'batei Elohei Mitzrayim yisrof ba'esh. He will smash the obelisks of the temples of the sun, and he will burn down the temples of the gods of Egypt. And so in this chapter, when it's revealed, as Yirmiyahu knew was going to happen, he knew the people weren't going to listen to him. When it's revealed what their plan is, their hope to stay away from destruction by going to Egypt, God says, no. Running away to Egypt. If you were ready to run away, you should have submitted, like I told you, to Bavel. But you didn't. You rebelled. And you're still on the wrong side. You're still not listening to me. I told you to stay there. Going back to Egypt is moving the wrong way. Going back to Egypt is like how Yosef was sold into slavery in Egypt. Going back to Egypt is the undoing of Yetziat Mitzrayim. We had in the book of Yeshaya, where it spoke about that the great redemption in the future is going to be so great that we won't talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim. So yeah, that's true. The future redemption will be greater, say the prophets, but that doesn't mean we don't remember Yetziat Mitzrayim. That is the source, that is the beginning of our history as a people with the God of Israel. And going back to Egypt, in a sense, is the undoing of the Karban Pesach, the Paschal Lamb, the Pesach story. And in so doing, the people, in a sense, are saying, God, we are no longer in this covenant with you. We're going back to get the protection of Paro, which we know has never worked out for the Jewish people in its history.